And it's good to have you on this Tuesday evening as we have entered into the month of Elul, the 6th month of the Hebrew calendar. And we're counting down to the fall feast, and we're glad that you're with us. So you're listening, you're watching, if you're watching on YouTube, Walking in Spirit and Truth.
Here from Amarillo, Texas. Yeah, and we have a few other programs too. If you don't know, we have the Monday morning War Room prayers right here on this network. We have Let Us Reason Together also on this network, and the next chapter, as well as segments that we do for news and things like that. But there's much more programming on this network. You want to stay tuned, listen, learn, grow, share. In fact, why don't you share this program? Go ahead and like and share.
Give us a thumbs up.
Give us a thumbs up. That's right. And Joe says, woohoo. We're so glad you're here, Joe. Yeah, my friend, my sister.
Right here on MessianicLambRadio.com. And you can go back. You can always check the archives. But we're going to give you a full spectrum of information, news, just biblical truths, all of that. And of course, we've got our spin on things. I won't say a spin on things because it kind of sounds like propaganda, but we have we want to be able to give some insight to help you walk this thing out in our lifestyle.
Also, we want you to know that we pastor a congregation here in Amarillo, Texas called Life of Worship. If you're ever in the area, we would love for you to come by and see us. Also, on top of that, we are hosting a Sukkot this year. And we're extending just real quick. If you don't have any place to go for the Feast of Tabernacles, if you don't have, whether it's for the full week, a day, a weekend, whatever it might be, sign up, go. This is going to be amazing, amazing time together. Yes, Joe has already done that, but it is fire, water, and wine, walking in spirit and truth. And it's going to be a great time in Yah. And it's going to be beautiful where we're at the lake. We're going to have a mikveh. We're having a talent show. That's going to be a lot of fun. I've been wondering if Joe's going to do puppets or what she's planning to make us laugh. Well, maybe you and Joe ought to do something
maybe
together.
We should. Yeah, we'll have a good time. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, and this is a beautiful time of year to be where we're going to be camping out there for Sukkot. It's just beautiful. October
13th through the 20th.
Yes. So it's certainly some of the best season. It's one of the best seasons in the Panhandle of Texas to hang out in.
Well, anyway.
So we're praying for that. I pray that's going to be true this year. If everything looks like it is right now, and if it holds true and holds through, we should have a wonderful week.
Holds true and through.
Yep.
And if you want to know more information about the Feast of Tabernacles, about Life of Worship, about our programming, about donating, whatever it is, go to www.lifeofworshipamarillo.org. And Amarillo has 2 L's.
And those of you that have given an offering to this show, Walking in Spirit and Truth, and to our ministry, we want to say thank you so much. It really has been a blessing.
And we need it. We're in a season right now where we need you to pray about it. And if Yah moves on your heart, we need you to partner with us. Yes. We're in that place right now. We need partners that want to step up and stand beside us.
Yeah, that's right. That and people that'll pray with us. We need the Father's wisdom like never ever before. There's so many things. It's like when it rains, it pours, and I'm telling you, we have. I'm not talking hurricanes like deluge, but I'm talking. We've been walking through some stuff here lately, haven't we?
We've been walking through some stuff, and then there's a little ebb, and then there's a whole bunch more stuff.
Oh my goodness! So please be praying for us. We really need to see the Father come through. We need His wisdom, what to do, where to go on certain issues, and as well as provision to take care of it. And these aren't just like for visionary things that we want to do. No, these are like real needs. So please be doing that.
So did you have anything funny to say? That was too serious.
That was very serious, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, no chemtrails today. No geoengineering. I didn't see any in the sky. It's kind of nice.
It's been said right now that we shouldn't even have our plants and things outside, that we've got to grow inside or inside greenhouses, inside our own house, because what is the chemicals that they have in the air,
the chemical engineering
through all of that is changing the DNA of our plants, even if they're homegrown. You know, we're trying to grow non-GMO plants and things like that. And it's, I had somebody call me this week and give me this whole thing that this scientist or person that said, man, you need to grow everything inside, everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, people, how many of us have a house that has a room or rooms that you can turn into, and then the sunlight? I don't know what to do. I'd love to have a big old greenhouse in our. We just don't have a big enough yard to do that.
And Sandy does a really good job with the vegetable garden, that type of thing. And this year has been really more challenging than most years for a number of different reasons, and getting things to grow. And she does if something can grow, she can make it grow. And this year has been really, really challenging. So.
Well, Joe is a great gardener too. She's right in here with us.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, listen to us. If you're listening to us on Messianic Lamb Radio, that's great. But if you want to join chat with us, then come to the YouTube live site. Yep. That way you can join with us right here and chat with us, and you can be a part of the conversation, actually.
Yeah. So just go to the place where the little magnifying glass is, type in Lamb Radio or Messianic Lamb Radio, and you'll pull up the channel here for MessianicLambRadio.com on YouTube. And then you just click on the one. It shows up live. This is our live program right now, this hour. So
I will say, though, that pretty much everything we ate last night in our salad and stuff was from our garden.
Wasn't that wonderful?
It was.
The tomatoes, the cucumber.
Peppers.
All
of it. It's all good.
It was so good. And then we had none of the stuff injected into the meat. Yeah, all of that stuff, non-hormones, no antibiotics, that type of stuff.
I'm hungry for lunch. And
you had lunch.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
we did have lunch.
But we had it was all hormone-free, all antibiotic-free meat. We cooked that on the grill.
You cooked it.
I cooked it on the grill.
Okay, guys, this is amazing. An evening meal for the first time in 25 years, pretty close to 25 years. Well, actually 25 years. He made a meal for me in the evening. He's made 2 meals in 25 years, and it's all been since I messed up my foot. And one was breakfast, and one was last night's meal. It was delicious.
Oh,
it was much better than the terrible thing that you made at me when I was dating the last time you made something for me.
Pork chops.
Ugh.
Over 25 years ago, I made you pork chops.
That was 25 years ago. It was. And I never had one, and I sure didn't want one then.
We don't eat pork anymore.
I wasn't eating pork anyway. You were the pork eater.
I did eat pork back then.
You were, yeah. So.
And then I saw the light.
I saw the light.
Okay, yeah. Right. Let's go on.
Well, we've been talking about gates. That was not a good transition. That didn't work for me, actually. So
we're just gonna have to jump right in.
You're gonna have to work on those transitions for sure. Anyway, we've been talking about gates, and last week we did a lot of the history, which we will do more of that because there is so much to think about gates. But we sort of ended on the note about a wide gate and a narrow gate, and I wanted to focus in a little bit about that tonight and use it. Sort of jump from there and use a few examples of the word. Were they living a wide gate life or a narrow gate life? What would you think gates represent? And hello, a mudslinger. Hello, Sean. It is so good to have you guys here. We're excited. So gates. Wide gate.
Well, we got a gate on our back fence. Why? Because it keeps people out and keeps dogs in. Think about it.
It's kept people in before too.
Keeps Mariah in.
That's right.
So, all right. So,
but what would you just out of you guys in the chat room too? What would you say is a wide gate believer or a wide gate person or a narrow gate person? What would you guys think that is? And guys, there's not a wrong answer because we know there's many layers in the word. Okay. So
so think about this. So what's at the gate in the ancient cities? Who sat at the gate? The judges sat at the gate. And so if you have a wide gate, then it's probably a wide gate because there's a lot of traffic going through there. And because there's a lot of traffic, there's a lot of commotion. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of distractions. And it's really easy if you want to just slip into the city to go in the wide gate where there's lots of traffic.
Yeah, but last week we talked about there was protection because you could taking care of your debts at the narrow gate, and then you were protected and free from whatever could possibly happen.
Yeah,
at the wide gate when you go into the city. Because think about the city; it's not all Not everybody's all.
You can't trust everybody in that
That's
city.
exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly
So
right.
if somebody slips in, then you don't know who's going to be in there wreaking havoc and causing problems and that type of thing, especially in close quarters. I think about ancient Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem. It's close quarters, and there's certain parts of that city. By the way, you know the gate. If you go in, what's the Jaffa gate? If you go in that gate, it's pretty a narrow gate, and it goes into the Jewish quarter. And I tell you what, it's nice, it's clean, it's kind of quiet. It's very. The people are just very, very nice over there. If you go into another gate like the Damascus gate, which is kind of on the Arab side, I'm just saying this is the notice
Your
difference.
experience.
My experience is it's kind of loud, it's smelly, it's got all sorts of things happening, and I always felt like I was watching my back. Like I didn't feel very comfortable. And that's the way when I was younger, we went as a family. I just didn't feel comfortable going in that side of the city. But when we went into the Jaffa gate and in the Jewish quarter, I felt completely safe. I mean, it's just something but it's a bigger gate over the Damascus gate. There's a lot of traffic going in and out of that gate, but the Jaffa gate there is just a little bit quieter. So,
well, we know that the gates are bustling with life. And like I said, we went over a lot of the ancient Near East things that happened at gates last week and some Hebrew meanings of gates last week. But I want us to take a look at this wide gate and narrow gate. And hello, Al, Henry. Hello, everybody that's in here with us. Joe said that the wide gate is someone who does his or her own ways. And anyway,
yes.
And she also said crime's more likely to happen at the wide gate. But let's go ahead and look at some scripture, because I want to go through some Old Testament examples of believers or people in the word and see what they are. And my next question is, can you be a believer in Yeshua and be a wide gate person?
That's an interesting question.
And then, and Sean also said that your wide gate is inner court, your wide gate is outer court, and your narrow gate is inner court. That's good, Sean.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
So I'm going to pose that to you guys. If you are a wide gate person, are you a believer?
Well, Yeshua did say something that wide is it leads to destruction, and the narrow gate is not. I'm messing up the quote because I had it in my mind. Now I just completely misparaphrased it.
Well, let's go ahead and look at some scripture since you're going to scripture. And let's look at Matthew 7:13.
Matthew 7:13.
Matthew 7:13. Yes.
All right. So, dun, dun, dun. We're going to get some truth out of this, aren't we?
Well, I hope so. Or at least some thought-provoking.
Hey, this is the verse I was thinking of.
Oh, it was? Well,
yeah.
There you go.
There we go. So let's just declare it. So Matthew 7:13, enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is broad that leads to destruction, and many are those who enter by it. Want me to do 14 too?
Sure.
For the gate is small and the way is narrow that leads to life, and few are those who find it. Now,
when you go to the normal church, what is the definition of wide gate and narrow gate people that the church gives?
Well, it's basically unbelievers go through the wide gate, and the narrow gates is for believers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it's that simple?
I don't think it's that simple.
Okay, because oftentimes we know our tradition in the church, or even some of our traditions that we carry forward in the Hebrew roots Messianic community, they're wrong because they're tradition, right?
Well, we carry a lot of stuff over from the church and from churchianity, and that's why we're here. We're trying to differentiate truth versus tradition.
Okay, so I've one of the keys to what we call eternal life, I would say, is that you need to be a narrow gate believer.
Yes,
right.
That makes sense.
So, how do you know if you are one?
How do you know if you're a narrow gate believer? Well, there's a lot to assess from that.
Well, let's look at Deuteronomy 16:18.
Deuteronomy 16.
Deuteronomy 16:18.
Hey, guess what?
What?
That's exactly where my Torah portion handout was. Okay, 16:18.
Yeah.
All right. So you shall appoint for yourself judges, shoftim, and officers in all your towns, which Yahweh your Elohim is giving you, according to your tribes, and they shall judge the people with righteous judgment.
Okay. So that is talking about what happens at the gate. So before the wide gate and the narrow gate, there's going to be activity or something that happens, right? Mudslinger said the path to life is very narrow. Few there are that find it. Only those sold out find it.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So we understand that basically the courts of law were at the gates, right? We understand that. So let's jump over to Ruth 4:1. Jump.
Jump, jump.
Okay, that song that just went in when you said that. You know how music affects you. Just a song popped into my mind from 1984. Dun, dun. Yeah, anyway. Okay. Yeah, it's the song that we as seniors in high school, we ran to the stage on that song and jumped on the stage. And
that was Van Halen.
Yeah, well, we're not. That just talking about that was high school, man.
That was way back when.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I got a story about Van Halen, but I'll leave that for another time.
Yeah, leave that for another time.
Okay. So we got Ruth chapter 4 verse.
Yeah, we're going to just sort of reinforce this point of gates and judgment. Ruth 4:1.
All right, here we go. And now Boaz went up to the gate and sat down there, and behold, the close relative of whom Boaz spoke was passing by. And so he said, "Turn aside, friend, sit down here." And he turned aside and sat down.
And of course, what transpired from there?
And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, "Sit down here." And they sat down. Then he said to the closest relative, "Naomi, who has come back from the land of the Moab, has to sell the piece of land which belonged to our brother Elimelech. Yeah, it's not coming out right. We're going to go on. So I thought to inform you, saying, buy it before those who are sitting here and before the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, redeem it. But if not, tell me that I may know, for there is no one but you to redeem it, and I am after you." And he said, "I will redeem it."
All right. So we know there was some judgment that happened. And then we have that again in James 5:9. James 5:9. And Sean said that in Ezekiel 44, it has believers in the outer court, but were not allowed in the inner court. You know, Sean, you're jumping on my message right now, and I'm just giving you a hard time. So it's true. There were believers in the outer court, but those were not allowed in the inner court. That's exactly right.
And that's another can of worms. What is up?
Your phone's been ringing this evening.
Man, I'm a popular kind of guy here. Okay, 5:9. Do not complain, brethren, against one another, that you yourselves may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing right at the door, at the gate.
The gate. Right. So since we're relating gates to judgment, as we did last week, what is judgment? Is all judgment bad?
No.
Judgment can be
it's good
or bad.
Yeah, that's right.
So
it all depends on the scenario.
Wait, I thought we were never supposed to judge as believers.
No.
Wrong
answer.
That's not true. That's not true. Although many would like to, we judge fruit all the time. Do you go to a fruit stand and go, "Oh, this one's good, this one's bad"? Or I'll just go, "I'm just going to pick one. The first one I touch, I'm going to take and consume and make a part of my life"? No, we judge the fruit, right?
I'm kind of not partial towards like mushy apples. I just won't do it.
I agree.
Or tomatoes.
So let me ask you this: if you go to an expensive restaurant, who are you going to see first?
Who are you going to see first? You're going to see
someone at the door.
Yeah.
And if that expensive restaurant says, "If you don't have a tie, you can't come in,"
guess what? They judged you.
They're going to judge you, look at you, and see if you are in the condition to be admitted.
Of course, right? There was a restaurant in Dallas that I went to one time that if you wore a tie, they cut it off.
That's true.
They judged you at the door.
That's true. It's Sean. Don't say I'm sorry. It's all good. I'm glad we're tracking together right here. It's good. That's a good thing. But so all the places, think about that. You have people really at the gates of all sorts of places that say, "Oh, you can come in or you can't." Okay, we're not really a part of that, but you hear all that. You know, at clubs, what do they have? Somebody at the gate, right?
Bouncers.
At the door, or they say, "Yes, you can come in," and "Yes, you can't."
Usually it's the bouncer.
But you have it at other places too. You go to certain all sorts of things in life. There can be people that say you can come in and that you can't. I even know of I'm not going to go there. Mm-mm. Well, Sean says we need to seek the inner court, and I agree. That's where we want to be as inner court believers, inner court dwellers, actually. Wouldn't that be great? Just to,
Yeah.
So
sounds
basically,
kind of like the wedding supper.
Yeah, it's the wedding supper. Judgments, therefore, are what? It's a filtering process. When you say it's this filtering process where we look at good, we look at bad. Can you pass? Can you not pass? Do you want this thing in? Do you want it to stay out? There's filtering that happens at gates. Because let me tell you, you don't want the bad stuff coming in. Although that reminds me of what's happening in our country right now. New Mexico has flung the gate wide open, and there's not a gate anymore. They just opened it up, and anybody and everybody can come right through.
Yeah.
And what's that doing to our nation?
Oh, that means nobody's going to the other gates. They're all going to New Mexico gate.
Right. But what is it doing to our nation? It's destroying our nation.
Yeah, it's flooding our nation with all sorts of...
It's destroying our nation. I'm talking about the result.
What's a flood do?
A flood can bring life, but it can destroy.
It can destroy.
Mudslinger said, Messiah told us he will place the sheep on his right hand and the goats on his left. The sheep will encounter eternal life, and the goats, on the other hand, will be cast into the lake of fire. That is true. That is what was said.
You know, that's really interesting, because I was thinking about how New Mexico and Texas are set up. If you look at a map, that New Mexico's on the left hand and Texas is on
your hands. You have
on
to
the right hand.
Here.
So isn't that interesting? So is that the goats are in New Mexico and the
I think Dr. Dina Dye and others would completely disagree with you.
If you're from New Mexico, I'm just messing with you, all right?
And we have people in Mexico coming to Sukkot, and they're our friends. So you just need to watch yourself right now. Oh, well. Right. So pastors teach that believers are not supposed to make judgments, but guess what? Matthew 7:1.
But we do.
We are supposed to.
From the time we get out of bed, we're making judgments.
We can't execute judgments. We would have to remove John 7:24, 1 Corinthians 2:15, 1 Corinthians 5:3, Psalm 82, and we could go on and on and on and on and on. Yeah, we are supposed to make judgments. Now, are we supposed to? There are certain kinds of judgments we stay away from, but we judge fruit. We're fruit judgers.
We sure are. We sure are.
We should also should be judges of what comes through our gates and what stays out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, so when you look at Matthew 7:1, when it's taken into context, what do you really think it means when it's talking about judgment?
Talking about judgment in Matthew 7:1.
Yeah.
Judge not lest you be judged and that type of thing. All right. So I'm going to go over there and take a look at it and pull it up. And read it. Do not judge.
Hold on. I was about to say absolutely. The word judges us because we are judged by the word. It's our standard. It's our covenant. It's life.
It's our standard.
It's our standard.
Yeah. Do not judge lest you be judged, for in the way you judge, you'll be judged, and by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. So, it's really interesting. I think Sandy, you and I learned something when we walked through this ordeal with Jonathan. And some of those elements, and we one of the things that in the past we really didn't quite think of it this way, but when we were walking through this ordeal, we were looking at as like, well, what type of judgment would we want the Father to pass on us? And so if we know somebody and they have been involved in something that's it happened to them. It happened in their life, and we can look at them, and we can make a judgment about that person, and then we can act on that judgment too, and start passing around our personal opinion on what should be going on. But if that judgment is harsh, and that judgment is not very it has no mercy in it, and you might even pass a judgment that the book should be thrown at the person, then guess what? According to this passage
We'll be judged
that we'll be judged the same way. Do we ever look for mercy? Do we ever say,
mercy.
man, I messed up. I really messed up. But if we're judging others and saying that person should have the book thrown at them, then that same type of judgment should come upon us, because one error is really no different than another person's error. Because if one person's sin is a sin, then another person's sin is a sin, whether it's murder, whether it's theft, whether it's gossip or whatever.
Fornication,
it's sin is sin, and therefore the book should be thrown. And honestly, according to the penalty of these things, it's death without the mercy of Yah. So ultimately, we need to be careful about how we judge, and let the judgment go to the Father. And one of the things that I learned deeply in my life is that I'm going to err on the side of mercy because I want mercy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And things aren't always as they seem.
And things are not. And honestly, here's something that's going on with General Flynn, by the way. So this is a current event that's going on, and he's got a new attorney out of Dallas that's representing him. And she's actually looking at requesting that the court throw everything out completely, not even trying to exonerate him or get him off for this lying type of thing, because of the conduct of the prosecution was so awful and so horrible.
Prosecution is evil.
And how they used it and manipulated it to come against him. They threatened his to go against his son if he didn't cooperate. So what did he do? He had to back off and say, okay, just call me guilty. And he had to throw in a plea. Well, his new attorney is like, no. But what this whole element has to do with mercy. They didn't give him mercy because of a quote unquote lie, which wasn't even a lie according to the 302s. Now that they're coming out, by the way, that he didn't even lie. But then you got somebody like James Comey, who wants mercy, wants to get off. In fact, Attorney General Barr is letting him off the hook for.
I thought you said Barr was good.
That's a whole other story. Okay, so letting them off because they're going after the bigger issue is what they're doing.
No, they need to get him too.
So no, the bigger issue with him, not just these little ones where they'll get thrown out of court. But the whole point is that's not how our government works. That's not how the DOJ has been working. That's not how the prosecution has been working. It just depends on what party you've aligned yourself with. That determines the amount of justice that you get, whether it's good or bad. And that's the way the system's working right now. So we need to, these are the very straightforward applications. Of course, what's been taught through social media, through television and movies and all sorts of things like that. Judge not, don't judge me. You shouldn't be judging. Well, no, that's not what it says. That's why we're peeling this apart. We do judge, but when it comes to a certain person and something that they did wrong, it is better to err on the side of mercy.
You're on the side of mercy and realize
and pray for mercy. If it has to go through the judicial system, then pray for mercy, for sound minds, sane minds to handle it the way that is where mercy, where true justice is meted out.
Anyway, there's
right, yes. Sean, you're exactly right. Comey won't shut his mouth. Oh my goodness, it's true. That's it. The guy has got a flapping mouth.
Oh my! I have all sorts of stuff to say about that man, but I won't say a word.
I think we all do, but we don't have enough time on this show.
In fact, I won't say a word to anybody. I don't even think I want to think it. But there's something else that we need to realize that happens at gates, and it's almost opportunity. Let's look at 1 Corinthians 16:9.
1 Corinthians
16:9. And I'm going somewhere. I'm just not getting there very fast.
It's all right.
Sorry about that.
I need to be silent.
No, you don't. We'll get there when we get there.
All right. So 1 Corinthians 16:9, for a wide door, wide gate, for effective service has opened to me, and there are many adversaries.
Okay. So something's open. Now there's adversaries. 2 Corinthians 2:12. And by the way, when Yah's about to use you, the heat's usually turned up. When there's a blessing or a promise about to be received, you're going to find the giants that try to be there in your midst so that you can't enter through the gate, that you can't even go through. And remember that because don't just shy away or give up because the enemy opposes you at the opportunity.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's really good.
Maybe that needs to
wisdom
be
right there.
preached to us right now.
Maybe so. Don't give up. Don't give in.
If there's giants in the land, hey,
Yeah.
probably should go take the land.
Hmm.
Anyway, 2 Corinthians 2:12.
Sandy. Okay. Now, when I came to Troas for the gospel of the Bessarah of Messiah, and when a door was opened for me in the Lord, I had no rest.
Okay, and Colossians 4:3.
Colossians 4:3. All right, Colossians 4:3 reads, praying at the same time for us as well, that God may open up to us a door, a gate for the word, so that we may speak forth the mystery of Messiah, for which I have also been imprisoned.
Okay. Now, in amidst all of this, we see judgment, opportunity, and so many other things happen in the gate. Life really happening at the gates, at the doors. We've been talking about judgment, but I want to go somewhere with now something else that's almost like a key at a gate. And I would say it's faith. Faith needs a gate. Faith is a key that opens the gate.
Yeah.
Let's explore that statement for a minute. What do you think?
That sounds good.
Because, just off the top of my head, what is faith? What is it that moves God? What moves our Elohim? What moves Yehovah, Yahweh? What moves him?
It's what we believe.
It's faith.
Yeah. Because faith is an action. It's what we believe. Believe causes us to do something. And it's not so that we go, oh, that's a good thought. I like that. I come into a mental assent with that. That's not faith. Faith causes us to move and shift course or go forward or make changes within our lives. And so, yeah,
but faith
good.
in what or whom?
Well, of course, it's always faith in Messiah.
And Messiah is the Torah. He is the Word made flesh.
Yes.
He is the Word. He is the life.
It's the Word that becomes flesh to us.
That's right.
It's where if you want to use it in the Greek sense, it's where it becomes rhema. It becomes alive to us. And or if you want to use it in the Hebrew sense, it's where it's the agadah. It's that inspiration of the Spirit of the Word itself causes us to be motivated to do and put feet to what the Spirit has shown us.
And I think that it's so important to remember that. But let's say this. Have you ever heard, well, it just takes faith and you'll be healed. But without Messiah in that, without Yeshua, our Messiah within that, if without his sacrifice, would faith heal? Because it says by his stripes, we are healed.
Mm-hmm. By the statement of it.
He took it all upon his flesh and paid the price. Right?
Right. That's exactly
because we can have all the faith in the universe, but if Yeshua hadn't been that sacrifice,
well, let's put it in this terms. Sandy, there was a time, you and your feet issue, there was a time that we were in the mountains of New Mexico that stayed on the left, and
whatever.
And you were jumping off a log, and you came down on it wrong.
Just FYI, we like to hike, and I don't want to hike on a trail. I want to be off trail. I want to explore it. I want to challenge myself, and I want to go to the top of a mountain, and we do. And so when we go there and we stop and see pretty things or fun looking things, we stop.
Like big logs you can jump off.
And there was a big tree that had fallen, and it was still, I would say, 5 or 6 feet in the air. And it was cool. And I thought we could have pretty pictures taken there. And it was
a picture of me jumping.
And you were up on the tree, and I wanted to go on the tree. Yeah.
Yeah. So Sandy goes on the tree and says,
you said,
"Look at me, take a picture." Well, I jump, and I said, "Don't jump. No, don't do it."
I said, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to have fun. Well, it was fun until you landed.
Oh, and I did not want you to see that it hurt. I didn't want you to see. Didn't want you to see, because I was like, oh, just smile.
Just smile through the gritted teeth. And so, I told you.
You did tell me.
But you know what she did? This is what she did. She took that passage of scripture, by the stripes of Yeshua, we are healed. that she took
I've been
every
healed.
step on the way, every
Because
step,
we were at the
all
top
the way,
of the mountain.
all the way down the mountain. Very painful. I mean, very painful. She was
But it
hurting.
wasn't broken.
It wasn't
Nothing was
broken, just sprained. And every step that she took, she acted on her faith and believed that the manifestation of that promise would take place. And by the time we got down to the bottom, she was walking.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
So
Our God is faithful.
So,
my faith was based on Him, His Word, and what He's done for me.
So it was an action of moving forward. Now, do we say that you should do that every time? No. We're believing for Sandy's foot that needs to be healed and see the manifestation.
It is healed. We need the manifestation.
See the manifestation of that, and we're waiting for that. But it's not wisdom for her to go and walk on it as if it were healed. That's not wisdom right now. Not in this case.
If He told me to, I would do that.
I'm sure you would.
In a heartbeat.
And so, but there was another case where we had a young lady that had a broken ankle and she had her foot in a boot. And she said, we asked, well, would you mind taking it off so we can pray for her? She says, no. And she was in a lot of pain. And so we prayed for it anyway in the boot. And in 30 minutes, she had the boot off and she was jumping up and down on it. It took 30 minutes of the group praying and we were believing and we were standing because the promise is true. And
we did. So in other words, we don't pray, oh, Father, heal her in the name of Yeshua, and then stop.
And say,
we keep praying until He releases
us. It didn't happen. So let's go on. No, we didn't do that. We prayed till the release came. And we saw her healed. And she walked away carrying the boot home.
That's right. And we've seen other broken bones. We're not, I mean, that's cool. But we're not.
But it's the action. That's what faith does. Faith takes the action. And
it's the key.
It's the key. But every key is a little bit different. So not every time the same. Every situation is not the same. That's why we have to listen to the Holy Spirit.
But when we think about it, Yeshua was basically striped for us, and He opened the gate, that opportunity where once we might have hit a wall. And not seen that healing. Now we know that we are healed, and then sometimes we need to say, "Okay, Father, what is it that? Why have I not received, or what's your plan?" And maybe He won't tell us, but we still stand and believe.
Well, and let's take one other thing, and this is I'm going to use you as an example.
And you're using me as an example a lot tonight.
I know, but you're a great example. You get to go through all the different things.
Is that good or bad?
I don't know, but you do end up going through a lot of things. That means there's a blessing. There's an anointing that comes with all that, by the way. But where I no longer have my job that had the great insurance and the prescription medication, all that sort of stuff that had been at for almost 14 years. And so I was out there trying to make deals with doctors, getting medications because she was on a whole bunch of medications for breathing, for asthma. Lots of money needed to be there. And then I was over at the house of prayer and I was praying and she said, you need to come home now. And I get home. She goes, guess what? I haven't been taking my medicine for a week. I'm like, what?
No, that's not what when I asked you to come home, I wanted you to come home so we could talk about that.
I know. And in the midst of that, you said,
no, that it didn't happen for 2 weeks.
And you said you hadn't been taking.
Anyway, a couple weeks later, he came home and I said, I hadn't been taking it for 2 weeks.
So I'm like, what? And because the manifestation of the healing, people pray for healing all of her life for this asthma thing. But the healing came through the deliverance, the breaking of the curses.
And we're not talking about just normal case of asthma. My heart stopped before I've been in coma.
It was severe. It was severe.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's amazing. So every key is different. That's what I'm talking about. The key of faith is listening to find out what key we need to use for each particular situation.
But faith is still always within that, because we trust in His word, and His word says we're delivered, healed, set free, etc. His word says as we follow His commands, none of the diseases of the Egyptians will fall on us, and we can just take that. We use His word. But we also see in Romans 5:2, by whom also we have access by faith into grace, wherein we stand and rejoice in the hope of the glory of Yah. So it's access, the key. We need access, and we're trying to get through the gates. So why? Because keys are used to give us access to what lies on the other side.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but maybe you are in the point of your life right now where you need access. You need to get through the gate to get access for healing or deliverance or finances or a congregation or a family issue or relational restoration, or we could go on.
A place to live.
A place to live, a job. There are so many things. And We want what's on the other side. And the promises of Yah are what? Yes and amen. But there's also conditions. We've got to walk in his ways and walk in his word.
Yes.
Follow his commands. And Joe said faith grows. And Mudslinger said mercy is the power in love that brings us to repentance.
Yeah. And a lot of times people have to remember this, is that, and I was talking about this on Shabbat, it has to do with when we're together in unity,
there's something that happens with
something
that as well.
that happens in that unity. If people are in conflict and then they're praying, there's no anointing there. It's a Psalm 133 principle where the oil flows when brethren dwell together in unity. That's when the oil flows. That's when it comes. It comes down from our high priest, who is Yeshua the Messiah. That's when the anointing flows, in the unity. If we're gathered together, congregation, we're holding these side conversations, so on. Well, I don't like the way so-and-so does something. Guess what? The congregation's not in unity, and all of a sudden there's been poison that's been injected in there. And then you have time for ministry, and you're praying for people, and you wonder why things don't take place, things don't happen, because we're back talking, we're backstabbing, we're doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
Lashon hara. It's venomous, and I'm telling you, it is cancerous to anybody. And we have to make sure that we stop those cancers. If we as believers, especially as Hebrew roots, Messianic believers in our faith, we of all people should be able to see all sorts of miracles take place. But are we seeing it? No, because we're still fighting about the calendar. We fighting about the day. We're fighting about all these different stupid things, and how you say the name, and the flat earth or round earth, whatever you want to do. Get off of it, and don't use that as dividing points. If there's going to be unity, it's got to be not that we're unity in all the different points and ideas, but we're unity in the faith, and we're not backstabbing the believers that have a different opinion than us. Okay. We want the unity. We need that for a key. It's part of the opening the door.
Let's look at John 10:9.
John 10:9.
John 10:9.
I know that guy.
You know that guy?
Yeah.
All right.
Do you know that guy?
John 10:9.
John 10:9. John 10:9. I am the door. I'm the gate. If anyone enters through me, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture.
All right, now let's jump over to Ephesians 2:18.
Jump. Ephesians 2:18, which would read as it follows. There. Okay. Galatians, Ephesians 2:18.
Yep.
All right, I'm getting there. And through him, we both have our access to one Spirit, to the Father.
All right. So with all of that, we say, what is it ultimately? That a key is useless without a door. And what we know that we're going to find results at the wide gate, and you're going to find results at the narrow gate. And I want us to jump over to Isaiah 38:1-5, because we're going to take an example of Hezekiah. Background of Hezekiah, most of his life, he was considered a good king. He was a good king. And a lot of people, when this is his prayer, this is actually Hezekiah's prayer, which we're about to read. And most would say, hey, this prayer is filled with faith and other things. But when you really examine it, examine the words, examine some Hebrew background in it, examine it a little bit more closely, maybe it's not what we've always been taught. So let's read Isaiah 38:1-5.
In those days, Hezekiah became mortally ill. And Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, came to him and said to him, Thus says Yahweh, set your house in order, for you shall die and not live. Wow. Then Hezekiah turned his face to the wall and prayed to Yahweh and said, Remember now, O Yahweh, I beseech thee, how I have walked before thee in truth, and with a whole heart, and have done what is good in thy sight. And Hezekiah wept bitterly. Then the word of Yahweh came to Isaiah, saying, Go and say to Hezekiah, Thus says Yahweh, the Elohim of your father David, I have heard your prayer, and I have seen your tears. Behold, I will add 15 years to your life.
Okay. So we're going to spend a few minutes here. In fact, because I expected us to get here a little bit, about 20 minutes ago. We didn't. So that's okay. So this is going to take a little bit longer. But here we know that what was he commanded to do? He's commanded to put his house in order. So if he was commanded to put his house in order, that means his house was not in order at the time.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the word for house in Hebrew?
Bet.
Bait. Yes, absolutely. And the word to set in order is savah. I'll put that here in the chat. But so you can say something about it if you want.
So bet is the house.
And zavah is to set in order. All right. So it means he's given this to command, to give orders, to charge, to set your place in order. He's commanding, giving him a charge, get it done. And the first time we actually see both of these words used, both of them used, the Hebrew words actually, is Genesis 18:19. So a lot of times, let's look at that first mention and see where that brings us and what it says, what can be revealed through that. Genesis 18:19.
All right. Genesis 18:19 says, "For I have chosen him in order that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of Yahweh by doing righteousness and justice, in order that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham what he has spoken about him."
Okay. So in that language, you're going to say, well, I don't see a house or set in order there. Well, you don't. But what we see when it says, "For I know him that he will command," that is actually zavah. And household there is a bait. If you look, it's bait. So if you remember, so the bait is used as household instead of house, and zavah is translated is to command instead of to set in order. So we see the translators didn't necessarily quite maybe get it right? But here we see that Yah declares that he will make a great progeny come forth from Abraham, because what was Abraham doing? He was following the commands, and his household was in order. He was teaching. He was raising them up in the faith. He was setting the standard of Torah in their lives, setting the standard. Because, guys, you say, well, the Torah wasn't given till the Exodus. Guess what, folks? There were feasts being celebrated and commands being followed at the beginning. And I believe since Torah is light, it was given, let there be light. Light was separated from darkness, et cetera, et cetera. So it says Yah is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Those words were written down then, but I believe his word is eternal, and it was there from the beginning. So, and taught.
Wow. No, I'm just thinking, wow.
You talk about that all the time. So
no, I was just thinking about how light is a frequency, and words are a frequency. So the very fact that when he said, "Let there be light," of course it was by words, but the light is frequency in itself. Setting Torah is the light. Light is the Torah. Lord, Torah is light, and the very fact that those actually are congruent with each other is very, very interesting. You can sit and ponder on that for a while.
Yeah. But here we have this opposite thing happening, because if he needed his household in order, what means his house wasn't in order, and he's giving this command. It's that same wording, but we have two different situations. Hezekiah, up until basically chapter 37 of Isaiah, he was a good guy. He was a good king. He was obedient. He did God's will. He followed him, but he was doing one thing obviously not quite right, is he was accommodating his children. Let's look what happened. Who even comes into power after he's gone? I mean, he was a very evil king, but we're not quite there yet. But he was parenting to please his children or to please himself. Either way, not bringing forth justice and judgment, not pruning when it needed to be pruned. Abraham taught his children to follow the commands, to live in them, to live them out, and follow those principles and create justice as well as judgment. Would you say?
Yeah.
But Hezekiah, he was focused on making sure everybody was happy and content.
Mm-hmm. Well, think about this. All right. So in the United States, it's been called the land of opportunity. And that has given opportunity for many people to work really, really hard and to establish themselves and gain wealth. And they become very respected through adversity. They push through. They become wealthy people, wealthy men, women. And wealth is in the family. Well, what happens to the children of those? A lot of times they inherit the estate, they inherit the wealth, and they do fairly well with maintaining that because they understand they saw what dad went through. So they want to make sure they keep that up as well. But it's in the third generation that has no sweat in it. They
No
have
skin in the game.
no skin in the game, that we find to be the decadent generation within the family that go out there and they're squandering their lives living off of granddaddy's wealth. And that happens time and time again. And could this be what's happened to Hezekiah? Maybe he was, he had gleaned from a process of holding himself together, but it wasn't carrying through to his kids. They were just out there doing their own thing. And you can see that with David's children as well. They're out there doing their own thing. We need to see that what we have must be transported into the next generation. We must carry those ideals. We want to bring those ideals into the life of our granddaughter because we know what we walked through, what we had to go through, what we have gone through, and we are going through, and we want that translate into our granddaughter's life as well, so that she can carry it forth and not go off on the other direction.
But the big thing is that you may say you don't want to hurt your son or your daughter or whatever.
Don't want to make them uncomfortable.
But you really are hurting yourself and hurting the generations and that go before. And we've got to remember that our life, when we make mistakes, it doesn't just affect us. It affects everybody around us. And in Hezekiah's case, a whole nation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right.
Mudslinger said, Hezekiah also boasted about his riches. He began to rise up in arrogance. And this is what causes the fall of any man. And that's true.
Yeah. Because
the path to life is only through humility. And that's absolutely right. Let's look at Luke 14:26. Luke, I know we're getting close to time, so I got to find a good cutoff place. I'm not quite sure where that's going to be right now.
14:26.
Luke 14:26.
If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple.
So I think about familial relationships right now. And we do know that following his true word, following his Torah, following his command separates families. But we can't be the ones that are the separators, I would say. Okay, we are supposed to separate ourselves, but not through hate, and not we respond in love. Remember, I said, I don't know on what show I said this, actually. Maybe it was last week, but we are commanded to what? Love the Lord, our God, with all our heart, mind, and soul. Love our neighbor, but we're also commanded to love the stranger, and we're also commanded to love our enemies.
Yeah.
It's a lot of love going on right there.
Lots of love. But let's just keep this in mind. It's just that we have this responsibility to move forward, and we want the people to come with us. We want to have people walk with us in a separated lifestyle. But if they don't, then we have to move on. We have to keep going. Yeah, there is a separation. It separates families. It separates us from our past life. But I'm telling you this, I don't want to go back.
But we always have to examine ourselves. Do we love other things, other people more than we love him? What does it show in our lives? What's the fruit show in our lives? Because we need to guard ourselves. Do we love God in our mind and in our emotions, but not in our hearts? Because we haven't given everything our will over to him, saying, have your way in us. You can have your way in all this area of my life, but not my finances. Or you can have your way in all these areas of my life, but not this. And we may not say that, but then in our actions, because we should judge our own actions too, so they're not judged by him, it shows something completely different. Do we serve him with all of our heart? Do we do that? Have we surrendered everything? Do we ask him, hey, we have a decision in our lives. Do we go to him and say, what are we supposed to do? Or do we use our own intellect, our own wisdom, or other men's wisdom and just go with that? What are we doing here?
So we need to go to the judge at the gate.
We're waiting for some gooey, ooey emotional thing, and our Yah is a Yah of emotions, but
you can't always wait for the hair on our arms to stand up.
That's exactly right.
We need to go to the judge at the gate.
If we love him with all our heart, we're going to be so full of love that that is how we're going to be able to love our enemy and love the stranger and everything else, because it's going to pour out of the love we have for him that we do in action as well as word. When we love our kids more than any person around us, that we prefer their happiness over Yah's, what's going to be the end source of the end result of all of that? It's ultimately going to be destruction of maybe our own lives, maybe their lives, but for sure generations ahead, maybe the legacy that we wanted to leave. If we are letting them slide on, or not parenting with the word, and that sitting down and teaching the word and the commands and the whole word from Genesis to Revelation, then we are making a mistake, because we're not talking about Yeshua. Then we have generations that grow up without Yeshua, and vice versa. We need balance. We need all of it, guys. We need all of the word.
Yes.
But we're really putting a knife at the throat of our own future when we aren't guarding the gate of our own children's lives.
Yeah, exactly. It makes me think about a story that we were told by one of the Hebrew roots teachers about their children and their grandchildren, and that their children had started attending a Sunday church, and not that they weren't keeping the feast or the Sabbath or anything like that, but they were taking their kids to Sunday church. Why? Because the people expressed love. They loved the children. They loved, and that was the better place to raise these kids, so they could understand in the midst of faith, even though they didn't quite believe everything, they would get the message about what it means to love. And I thought that was very interesting. Of course, I think it's very indicting upon us if we're not careful to have that balance within our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and read a couple scriptures before we carry this forward to next week, because we're at time. But let's look at Proverbs 13:24. And by the way, Mudslinger says, when we do not put our Messiah first, we fail to serve our family as well as we should, and judgment begins in the house of Elohim. Absolutely. Proverbs 13:24. You could go.
Okay. All right. Here it is. He who spares his rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him diligently.
Okay. Now let's go to 23:13 through 14.
23:13 to 14. Do not hold back discipline from the child. Although you beat him with the rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with the rod and deliver his soul from Sheol.
Okay, now don't write in and say, well, you're telling us to beat our children. No, right now, I'm telling you to put your word in your children. And one of the biggest things, too, is you got to live it out yourself, because children do what they see.
Yeah.
So basically, by not imparting judgment and justice in your home, or what in Hezekiah's home, he was basically forsaking the future of his descendants. And his attitude is really evident when we go to Isaiah 39. We're not going to go there yet this week, but I think it was Mudslinger who said something earlier. His attitude changed from what he once was, because maybe he went from a narrow gate person to a wide gate person. I don't know. We're going to talk about that next week. And until that, did you have something you wanted to jump in there with?
Well, no, I was just actually looking at that word to beat is the Hebrew word nakah. And nakah, it means to strike lightly or severely, literal or figurative, beat, cast forth, clap, give wounds, go forward, and it goes on like that. But so it means spank them. It's okay. Of course, we could probably get kicked off YouTube saying we spank our child. But you know what? I'm just kidding. But no, honestly, how many kids go through life not spanked,
but there's other layers.
And they grow up to
too.
be a Natifa person or whatever.
They're people of the.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we just
Okay,
have to think
John.
about it. I mean, just
All
think
right.
about it. Just think about
All
it. All
right.
right. And just kind of, I've had to throw that one in. Antifa.
There you go. I'm like, that is the wrong word, Mr. Craig.
I know it's the wrong word.
What?
So many words in my mind, all trying to get out at the same time.
Anyway, we want to thank you guys for joining us again.
Through the gate.
We want to remind you that we do have a Life of Worship Sukkot. If you want to register, please do that pretty quick because we need to get you counted. If you don't have any place to go, if you want to donate and be part of the ministry and what we're doing here at Life of Worship, please do so. There's a donate button on our site at lifeofworshipamarillo.org. And if you want to drop us a note or a line, or if you want us, John or myself, one or both of us, to come out and teach, preach, or worship, or all of the above, to your group, congregation, church, whatever it might be, let us know. Let us know. We'll see what we can work out.
Yeah. And by the way, in our Sukkot is over at beautiful Lake Paladuro in the Texas Panhandle. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous area by the dam. And great campground, lots of things to do. Beautiful trees covering shades, and it's going to be changing of the leaves. So we should be seeing some of that.
It is.
It's going to be beautiful.
So I want to thank all of you who have joined us this evening in the chat room, and all those who weren't in the chat room, and all those who are going to be listening in the future. Hey, like this program, share it, and let's get the word out. Next week, we're going to continue with Gates, and we're going to talk about Hezekiah. We're going to talk about David. We're going to talk about some other things and bring it all together, and it'll be great. So until then, this is Sandy Craig.
And this is John Craig. Shalom.
Shalom.